Canada is furious, and it has devised a brilliant plan to freeze out the United States from, frankly, the world order that wants to focus on, I don't know, things like trading with each other and liberal democracies and not be Putin bootlickers. And so what Canada has been doing behind the scenes as it solidified a Trans-Pacific trade agreement in Asia and solidified a trade deal with the European Union was also serving as a bridge to basically unite the world that wants to engage in more free trade and multilateralism and cooperation, as the United States was trying to destroy and break that world order. And Trump is really being outmaneuvered by Prime Minister Carney, and we're really starting to see the results of that unfold. I mean, the United States looked awfully lonely at that Munich conference. We saw countries and leaders feeling more confident in asserting themselves against the U.S., mocking the United States, standing up to the Trump regime's despicable policies. I mean, you had Rubio there talking about, there's this whole idea of a world order where we could have free trade and work with each other and multilateralism. What a laughing stock that was. That shouldn't be what we want to do. That euphoria of post-World War II, that should never have existed. What, with like the U.S. as one of the leaders? He's like, the 5,000 years of human history showed us that we can never have this. It was like the 5,000 human years of experience that led to World War II and almost total global annihilation maybe taught us some lessons that we should reflect on, not to rewind and move backwards, but to, perhaps move forward with new structures and new ways and new forms of cooperation. That's not to say they're all perfect, but to at least reflect on the past, not go back and jump right into it. So here's what we're learning. Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, constructing a mega anti-Trump trade alliance. And again, it's all about uniting the Transpacific Partnership, the CPTPP, with the European Union deal. I mean, you could have close to 1.5 billion people falling within this partnership that Carney's trying to broker. Canada, Singapore, Mexico, Japan, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Australia. And this is as Canada's also strengthening relations with China. I mean, imagine if that relationship, there's a lot that needs to be worked on there, but if that relationship grows, you could have the U.S. just being, what was that show? You're the weakest link, goodbye, as the rest of the world creates these structures and the U.S. is out. Gone are the days when the U.S. is the leader. Gone are the days when the U.S. would lead these meetings and hold the veto powers. They could be out of all these world structures. I mean, even the latest news that Canadian passport holders can now travel to China visa-free starting this week. But the statement from Prime Minister Carney was extraordinary. We're renewing Canada's relationship with China. As part of our new strategic partnership, China is granting visa-free travel for Canadians. And while all of this is happening, what was Rubio doing? Rubio is in Hungary after being in Munich, and he's standing next to Viktor Orban, praising Orban as Orban is deeply behind in the polls in Hungary to a pro-European Union, pro-democracy leader in Hungary. You have Rubio saying, we love you, Orban. People should vote for Orban. You get the U.S. trying to screw over the European Union, screw over democracies, and help Putin. This is what Russia did last week, and here's what Rubio's doing. How embarrassing. Here, play this clip.
It is the kind of thing that I think, for example, I can say to you with confidence that President Trump is deeply committed to your success, because your success is our success. Because this relationship we have here in Central Europe through you is so essential and vital for our national interests in the years to come.
And here was Rubio when he was in the Munich conference saying the world order is over. You destroyed it, Rubio. Here, play this clip.
But the euphoria of this triumph led us to a dangerous delusion that we had entered, quote, the end of history, that every nation would now be a liberal democracy, that the ties formed by trade and by commerce alone would now replace nationhood, that the rules-based global order, an overused term, would now replace the national interest, and that we would now live in a world without borders where everyone became a citizen of the world. This was a foolish idea that ignored both human nature and it ignored the lessons of over 5,000 years of recorded human history.
I want to bring in Charlie Angus, the leader of Meidas Canada and the leader of the Meidas Canada resistance toward Charlie. You observed what went down in Munich over this weekend, and you're seeing now this reporting, and we've been covering it here, both on the MeidasTouch network, and you've been covering on Meidas Canada, what Prime Minister Carney was doing behind the scenes. And I like to describe it. It's kind of connect the dots that you do as a little kid, but in real life, and the dots get connected and the U.S. stays isolated, and the dots are U.S., Russia, and then the rest of the dots are kind of the rest of the world. What do you make of it, Charlie?
Well, before we get into what happened in Munich, let's just break down what Marco Rubio said to Orban about him representing the U.S. national interest. He's not representing the U.S. interest. Marco Rubio is talking as a traitor. Orban has undermined Ukraine and Europe again and again and again. He's been using Russian oil. It's not helping the Hungarian people, it's helping the oligarchs around Orban. So Marco Rubio goes to Munich, tells the people of Europe that your future, if you're going to be allowed to be part of the American future, is you have to go give up what he called, the climate cult. No, that's an international agreement. The Paris Accord is an international agreement. You're supposed to rip up an international agreement to sign on with the United States. He says, or we're going to go it alone. Well, so you're going it alone. What we've been seeing from Marco Rubio in Munich is he's come up after last year's Munich disaster, where J.D. Vance basically aligned the United States with the extreme right all across Europe. And Ben, last year when the Munich conference was happening, I was with the parliamentarians in Brussels at NATO. We were on talking about this at that time. And Canada was very much alone at that time. The Europeans were panicking. They were freaked out. They were trying to placate MAGA and figuring out, how do we work with this new regime? You see what happened this time at Munich? It's very clear. The Europeans are realizing we are not going to be pushed around by these mobsters anymore. We are not going to go along and be threatened to form some kind of ethno-white Christian state as a vassal state to the United States. So Europe is moving on. And in that time, Canada has changed dramatically from being, I think, very much isolated and alone and threatened to being a country that is negotiating and building alliances economically and militarily with Europe, and connecting the Europeans with our cousins in Australia, New Zealand, and the Asian partnership. And so something really dramatic is happening. And it was happening as Marco Rubio was acting like the moron of the week, lecturing people like it was maybe he had heard of too many Jordan Peterson podcasts, but a man who knows nothing about Europe, a man who knows nothing about history, lecturing the Europeans. The Europeans are like, okay, thanks. Yeah, we know. We're done with that.
And, part of it is the recognition that we're done with that. Canada's we're done with that moment. What would you say, Charlie? Maybe like last February with the physical manifestation at the World Hockey Tournament with the booing of the national anthem. It felt at that point even like Canada was like, and I think it may have been a little earlier, but there was this moment, right? We're done with it. Trudeau resigns. Carney becomes the pick. Canada rallies. Polyev falls behind. And there's some spirit in the air that you and I were there for, and we were reporting on, frankly, right after Trump was elected. You saw it coming, and then Canada started looking a lot like Meidas Canada. But now we're seeing kind of Meidas world almost develop, right? Yeah. I mean, you're seeing, okay, we're done. Now what do we do? And now what we do, Canada's leading the way in forming these partnerships and bringing partnerships together, almost like a roll up of a company, but like a roll up of liberal democracies that want multilateralism and are saying enough is enough.
Ben, it's been extraordinary. You and I started talking about this, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know how it was going to go down. But I could sense when I hit the road with the first town halls, the determination of Canadians to withstand any threat, to endure any pain, to come out the other side as a democratic nation that believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what have we seen from the last year? Our trade has dropped with the United States, but it has been more than picked up with trade around the world. Meanwhile, the Canadian boycott is hammering the US mega economy in the terms of billions. Now we're seeing the Europeans are moving in a massive way, citizens pushing the boycott as well. Canada has become something of a symbol of resilience and resistance, and extraordinary things are happening. We just saw this week Canada signed on with the European Union for a loans agreement on military reinvestment. We are the only non-European country that signed on to that. We just signed on with Denmark on a protection program for protecting the far north and the Arctic. I mean, you know, what the MAGA crew were saying was that they were going to shake down Greenland to protect the north, whereas Donald Trump was like, no, I'm going to shake down Greenland and just take the assets. Canada is signed on with Denmark. We're signing on with the Europeans. And, you know, in all my years in Parliament, Ben, trade negotiations went on forever because everyone has their little patch of ground. Nobody wants to give anything up. Everybody's suspicious. But the one thing about Donald Trump, he's made us realize, okay, we either work together or we fall apart. And so suddenly things have been moving. Trade between Canada and the UK has exploded over the last year. Trade between Canada and the EU's exploded. You know, doors are opening in China that were closed before. Chinese EVs are coming into Canada. Now we're talking about building plants here. The issue is what is the MAGA government going to do in the face of Canada working and knitting together this new global alliance? I think the threats are going to start to mount seriously against Canada because they can't have us carrying on as an independent, democratic, free nation working with other democratic, free nations. Marco Rubio doesn't get it. Trump doesn't get it. But I think there's going to be a real push comes to shove moment in this year. And we are going to have to really hunker down and get through to the other side. But we are going to get through to the other side.
Right. You think about it, doing a real trade deal, not a trade deal by social media post that Donald Trump does where there's no paperwork attached. But when Canada would do a real deal, let's say you were negotiating over lumber, right? 0.002% delta in a trade negotiation over imports, exports could be something that takes 9 months to resolve because that could impact certain things in certain sectors. And then, you know, so you go back and forth. Is it 0.006? Is it 0.008? You go, you know, on just that one issue. And then you're talking about writ large on an economy, and you can see why trade deals take forever. But now it's like, you know what? Let's just agree to that. Let's form a compromise because we're going up against fascism and we're going up against someone who's trying to destroy our way of life. So we're not going to, we got it. Okay. We're not fighting over that anymore. Let's bring people together. Let's figure this out. We're stronger together versus these attacks in the Trump regime. But taking that into account, Charlie, and before we go, what's your overall message right now to Donald Trump and Pete Hoekstra? We know that Trump and his regime watch these, and they've sent you messages before and kind of weird, bizarre message. We know they watch it. So what's your message to Trump and his regime right now?
Well, where we were a year ago when Donald Trump said he was going to break us and where we are now, it's a whole different world, Donald. You are weak. Nobody believes you. Marco Rubio went and looked like an idiot on the world stage. People wouldn't have been like that last year. They would have been afraid. They would have thought we could negotiate. We know there's no negotiating with gangsters. You're a criminal, Donald. That's the thing. You believe in the art of the shakedown and you believe in intimidation, and everyone knows your word means nothing. It's like less than nothing. So suddenly we have an opportunity to rethink how we're going to be in the world. And so old allies that were suspicious of each other are now talking to each other full out. Canada is selling our aluminum to Europe because you said it was a threat. We are selling our copper in Asia because you said we were a threat. We have massive amounts of lumber that we can supply to Europe. We will do that. But the ultimate thing, Donald, is that we are democratic nations. We believe in the rule of law. And you're a criminal. I mean, you're so many times in the Epstein files, Donald. You could get Pam Bondi to say that these allegations of child rape that your name is attached to don't matter. But it matters to the world because they look at you and they look at your administration and they look at the people around you in Washington who let you get away with what you've been getting away with year after year. And they're saying, no, we don't want to have anything to do with that. So suddenly China doesn't seem so bad. And suddenly the Europeans and the Asians are saying, how do we talk to one another? Well, there's Canada. And Canada, Donald, I know you're going to come back at us. You're going to come back and you're going to threaten us. But Donald, our people were on the beaches of D-Day from day one. We fought. We freed Europe. We did our part. We will never, ever, ever bend when it comes to dealing with fascists or thugs. So, Donald, keep burning your house to the ground. It's too bad. We love the American people, but we hate your fascist guts, and Canada will stand and hold the line.
Charlie Angus, leader of Meidas Canada, leader of the Meidas Canada Resistance Tour. Go check out when Charlie comes to your city or town. Charlie, thanks for everything.
Thanks so much.
Everybody subscribe to the Meidas Canada YouTube channel and subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Help us get to 6 million subscribers. We're almost there.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.